Hi, everyone. I'm Kristi DePaul. I'm the CEO of Founders Marketing, and Hi, everyone. I'm Kristi DePaul. I'm the CEO of Founders Marketing, and it's absolutely a pleasure to be here today. I want to thank all the folks who have put this conference together, especially the team at NearForm. I know they've done it in a very quick turnaround time, and it's something that will benefit a lot of people, especially as there are many of us working from home right now. In fact, the vast majority of us, and there are quite a few who are doing this for the first time. So I'm not sure if you can see my slides at the moment, but if you cannot, this is not a problem. I'm happy. I will go through everything that I have with you, regardless of visuals. So first, a little bit about me. I run a fully remote content marketing firm that serves organizations focused on the future of work and the future of learning. And what does that actually mean? So we are working with tech startups that have developed tools for remote teams. We've worked with organizations that have a nonprofit focus that are helping K-12 schools shift to digital learning. So it's actually quite a busy time for us right now, which is a little bit strange in an economy that seems in other ways to be grinding to a halt. But it's because of these areas that we focused on that firms are seeking us out, and we are able to lend our expertise. And so I'm grateful for having a focus at this point. And of course, the focus of today's talk is about building your remote brand. And part of that is considering what you stand for, both as a company and also as an individual. Now, my firm, we're actually divided by 10 time zones. So if any of you are feeling the pains of trying to communicate across a vast distance, I certainly understand that quite well. And I know that there are a lot of technical folks on this call, many of whom have worked remote for a while, so this is nothing perhaps new to you. As part of our work, though, we always try to embody the Founders brand. And in doing so, that's something that has brought us more, in many ways, a broader network for ourselves as professionals, but also more clients. So what I'm going to talk to you about today with regard to a remote brand, especially in a time that is very sensitive, right? This is not a time where we're talking about showing off. And in fact, that's not what branding is about. This is a time where we are thinking about helping others and having empathy and compassion. How can we be there for someone else in their time of need, in a time, frankly, of crisis, when many people are working with kids or with pets underfoot? I know certainly I am. So what does branding mean in this landscape and in this climate? I first wrote these tips that I'm going to share with you as part of a blog post for remote.co. And I've written roughly 250 articles for them on all types of topics tied to remote work, relating to teams, navigating conflict, managing up, multi-generational workplaces, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So remote work can be considered from so many different angles. And when it comes to branding, again, whether it's you as an individual or for your company, this is not something that you sort of leave to the marketing team or you put on the back burner for someday when you feel like posting a little bit on LinkedIn. This is something that you should be cultivating all the time from a very genuine standpoint and very authentically. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how that can look in practice. And then I want to leave a little bit of time also toward the end to have some questions asked. And unfortunately, I think my audio might not be working too well. So I think if there are questions, those could be sent to me via chat. Okay, so my first tip is taking the time to spring clean your online presence. So if you run a company, what might this look like? How does your social media look? Have you reviewed it lately? What does your bio say about you on LinkedIn? And I'm not talking about just your personal profile, but your company's as well. Everything from the imagery that you choose to the language that appears in your bio communicate your brand's values. And building your brand is about giving more than taking. So it's best, and what I recommend for all of our clients is to consider writing from the perspective of what's in it for someone else, right? You're not watching this presentation because you care to hear me extrapolate about branding. You want to know what's in it for you. So when someone visits either your websites or any of your social media sites, what is their immediate impression about your brand? What are their takeaways? And what can you communicate that will be of some benefit to them? Or perhaps if it's not a direct benefit to the reader, is there something of value that they could be sharing with their network? Something that they can keep in mind and then say, oh, you know what? I do know a company that is focused on building this kind of collaborative tool for remote teams. Here it is. So think about the language that you're using, the imagery, frequency of posting. This is not the time to be quiet in many ways. I think a lot of brands are sort of stepping back at this time. It's just a really difficult period for many, many people all over the world. And so people feel as if branding should take a back seat. I absolutely disagree. I don't think that branding should be on the back burner because it's not intended to be you standing there with a megaphone saying how great you are or how fantastic your company is. It is you being there to contribute to a solution. So as long as you look at it from that perspective, that you're helping somebody, then first of all, it starts to feel a lot less uncomfortable to be talking about what you do as a professional or what your company provides, either products or services. And it's something that, quite frankly, can offer someone else a solution to a problem. So taking time to spring clean your online presence, whether it is your own personal social profiles or that of your company, it's a valuable first step in understanding how other people see you. It is essentially your billboard to the world. So consider that, take into account that you could be offering valuable content. Again, it doesn't have to be just about you or your company. You could be sharing curated articles, and this is something that we do for many, many companies, sharing articles that are going to be worthwhile to people within their network. It's not just about raising your own visibility. Becoming a thought leader has a lot to do also with elevating the insights of others, because you're not the oracle in your field. I'm sorry to say it, and I'm not the oracle of branding. I hope that doesn't disappoint you. So that's point one. Let's move on to the second, thanking others for their insights, assistance, and interest. I think this is something that is very commonly overlooked, especially in our really fast-paced world. When considering startups and tech organizations, all of us are really keen on getting a product to market or services, right? We're focused on shipping. There's a lot of talk about monthly recurring revenues and annual recurring revenues, and I think we're all many teams are focusing in lockstep on goals that are quantifiable like that, but they're not taking into account some of the more humanistic aspects that can also propel a brand forward. And there are some brands that have done this very well. Apologies for the traffic noise outside. One of those brands would be Buffer, of course, if you're familiar with them, the social media management tool. So they've become much more than just a company that provides a tool that's very useful for organizations and for people. They've become a community. They've established values, a set of values that has served as a template for other organizations to follow. So think about that if you're sitting here wondering, well, how does my company have anything to do with thought leadership or serving as an example in the industry? Well, what does a social media management tool have to do with these things? I think the other piece about branding is that it's very egalitarian in that once you define your set of values, you can put those forward, and it's not about exactly what it is that you produce, but it's about what you communicate. So thanking others for their insights has to do with a whole range of interactions. You probably have customers, clients, colleagues, even friends who have offered suggestions to you throughout your career or as part of your company receiving feedback. Thanking those people in a variety of ways, whether you're writing a blog post with a list of the new specs that you're going to release soon, or you're going to, you've made an announcement in some other fashion, offering people thanks either directly in a public announcement or via a message, a quick message to them that says, hey, I appreciate your assistance here. Shows them that you value their opinions and also that you're putting them to good use. And there's nothing better than someone taking something you've said and actually using it to propel their business or their career forward. There's nothing more rewarding than that. So my third point is finding relevant outlets where you can offer expertise. This is where, if you're a company leader, perhaps there's an organization in your industry that you could be a part of, or if you're already a part of one, could you be more active? Could you offer to help mentor someone remotely? This is something that I think is going to be growing in popularity over the coming weeks and months. If you have the time, and certainly if you have the inclination, offering up a few mentor sessions, even if you're doing so via LinkedIn, and say, hey, anybody interested? I'm happy to teach you about X. This is a wonderful way for you to give back. It's also, again, a way that you will be building your own brand. People do notice these things, that you're taking the time to invest in others. Another way you can offer your expertise would be to craft blog posts and responses to thoughtful blogs, as well as op-eds for newspapers. And you might be thinking right now, what on earth do I have to say that could be published in a newspaper? If you have read any of the news lately tied to the rise in working from home, specifically, not just remote work, you'll see that there are plenty of people talking about the circumstances that we've all found ourselves in, right? We all have new coworkers. Sometimes it's a pet. It might be a baby. It might be your partner or your spouse. So we're all dealing with a different dynamic. Either we're working from home for the first time and all of this is new, or we're working from home and all of a sudden everybody else is at home too. And that is representing a major challenge for people. So there's always something that you could be offering, whether or not it's tied to your direct expertise. If you're into coding or programming, you're in marketing and PR like I am, or you're someone who is a salesperson or a project manager, there's always an angle that you have that is of value to others. You just have to think about how this ties into broader trends, what you might have to say that could possibly be unique or a bit different from what others have shared so far. And again, always keeping the recipient or the reader in mind. What is in it for them? I think that's the most important thing. When you scroll through your feeds, you're probably skipping over a lot of the announcements that people make saying, I'm so honored, and I'm so happy about this, or I'm really proud. Well, those things are great to share that you've had some wonderful milestone. But what's more important is to share something that will impact someone else. So finding those relevant outlets is critical, and you can do so through a variety of ways. I think personally, Twitter chats have helped me quite a bit. So finding Twitter chats that are relevant in your field helps you to broaden your network and also find more opportunities for you to offer expertise to a larger community. Okay, my next point is sharing inspirational stories. These are, as a marketer, so many people will come to me and say, well, how can I get this to go viral? This is the magic question. Everybody wants something to just be shared and catch like wildfire. And I'd love it if I could actually predict that. if only there was some sort of silver bullet, something to say, look, this is the kind of thing that people share. There is a book that I would recommend about topics that are likely to be shared by others, that people will feel compelled to pass along. And that book is called Contagious, and it's by Jonah Berger. He is a professor at Wharton Business School. And it's really interesting in that it details the types of emotions that essentially inspire people to pass things along. And they might surprise you. So some of the emotions typically rank very highly on the arousal scale. And when I say that, I don't mean maybe what you think I mean. I'm talking about anger. I'm talking about sadness. And I'm talking about joy. So feelings that are high on the arousal scale are in these areas. And of course, they're polarized, right? These don't all exist in the same continuum. But when you're thinking about an inspirational story, you might read someone else's story. There are a number of these on social networks, especially the ones that allow for more than 280 characters, like LinkedIn, where you're starting to follow along. You don't even know this person. Someone else has liked their post, and they're writing about that time that they got laid off, they got fired. And you're starting to feel empathy for them, and you don't know them whatsoever. And you get a little bit invested in their story because they start by telling you something that is personally or professionally a bit devastating. And they carry you along through the end of the story, all within a single post to show you how they've overcome something. So it's about resilience, and it's about facing adversity. So when you're thinking about, okay, well, do I even have any inspirational stories that I can share? Maybe it's in the founding of your company, how you faced failure multiple times, how you had to pivot, how you lost an investment. Think about the things that were major disappointments and how those turned around, whether it was within your power or it was something circumstantial, and how things got resolved. Those are the kinds of stories that people really want to hear. I think all of us have experienced failure at some point, and it's something that not many people want to discuss and they're not very comfortable with. So when you think about inspiring others, think about your own wellspring of resilience, if you will. What can you draw from that might be something that someone else is going through right now? And of course, it's wonderful also to share an inspirational story where you've had success after success. But I think we all know that that's not entirely common, and nor is it necessarily realistic. Okay, I'm going to move on to my next point here because I want to be able to do a little Q&A toward the end. Okay, so participating in critical dialogues related to your industry. If nothing else, I absolutely would suggest that you consider doing this. Critical dialogues can take on many forms. Doesn't have to be a face-to-face conference. And in fact, who's going to those these days, right? So you could be participating in an online keynote like I am right now. You could be part of a virtual panel. You could be leading a workshop for your alumni association, for example, offering up your skills to people in different organizations, whether they're in meetup groups or others that typically meet face-to-face and don't have a chance to right now. So you have a lot of opportunities virtually to offer critical dialogues. I'd love for you guys to all explore those. And I will pause here and see if there are any questions that I might be able to speak to quickly. Okay, I'm not seeing anything in the chat just yet, so I will continue for a moment. Some of the exercises that I really appreciate when it comes to branding involve brainstorming, so setting aside 15 to 20 minutes, if you can, to think about your unique experience, your career path, whether you're a remote worker or a company founder. The things that you specifically have overcome that you're comfortable sharing. The ways that you would like to give back, whether it's on a one-to-many or one-to-one basis. So taking that time, 15 to 20 minutes, you could do that twice a week. You could schedule it into your day using just time blocks are really helpful. And you can walk away from that having a cumulative impact. So if you've done this for 3 weeks straight, imagine all the ideas you could have come up with, and not just ideas, but action steps moving forward to lead that workshop that you could design, or you could probably give in your sleep because you know this programming language from start to finish. Think about all the ways that you could be putting yourself out there authentically and genuinely in a time when others really, really could use your help. So on that note, I would like to take the time just to say, again, thank you so much to the NearForm team. Thank you to all of you. I know your time is really valuable, and I so appreciate everything that you're doing to try to maintain normalcy during this time, as I currently am in lockdown, so I know how this feels. And I'm just really pleased to have been here today. Thank you so much.